I've been an amateur astronomer pretty much my whole life. The town that I grew up in is a suburb of Chicago, and when I was little, I could sit in my backyard and look up and see the Milky Way. I remember doing it when I was 5 or 6. A kid growing up at that address today could count the stars on his or her fingers, and that's a huge change in a short time. And so I saw that happening, and that's where I started to realize that this isn't being talked about enough, and we need to work on it. My field is biology, and I really was floored by looking at the ecological and the biological aspects of turning night into perpetual twilight and taking away the darkness. Taking away the night is something that we're getting used to, and we kind of have this instinct that we ought to do that because we're afraid of the night. But it's really as serious as taking away the day would be. If you woke up in the morning and we figured out somehow or another to block the sun and it didn't get light out, people would be up in arms about that, but we're not up in arms about taking away the night, and we really ought to look at that more closely. I personally have always had trouble with the term light pollution. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to people. The principle is that something that can be good in one place can be bad somewhere else. So it's the same thing with light. We need it in places where we're going to be to see, obviously, but we know that Chicago has more than 250,000 streetlights that the city operates, so I don't know if they even know what every streetlight in town is right now. When we waste light, we're wasting electricity. So if you look at the sky over a town or a city and see how bright the sky is, you have to realize that that light up there came from burning coal or something else to generate electricity. So we're burning coal to light up the sky, which doesn't make any sense. Right now, we have lights around us here that are in globes, and there's a light bulb in a large glass globe, and the light is going all directions. And it's incredibly wasteful when you think about it. Every light we turn off at night or turn down, use half as bright a one because we're focusing the light better, we'll be burning less fossil fuels. And we know that's a huge thing environmentally too. And then there's the issue of human health being affected by stray light at night. And this is something that we're only just starting to appreciate. It was only around the year 2000 that it was discovered that we're incredibly photosensitive, and it really affects our physiology in a lot of ways. It turns out that our bodies run on internal clocks, and our internal clock is set every day by our exposure to light in the daytime and darkness at night. And simply by having light exposure at the wrong time, we can really mess up our internal clocks. And this is a subject that people are going to be hearing much more about in the next decade or two, because there's a lot of research already piling up. It sounds ridiculous that people don't believe that we're talking about everything from depression and obesity to fighting diseases like cancer and diabetes and many of the plagues of modern life, health-wise. There are some very interesting studies out of a university in Israel looking at the proportion of the population to get certain types of cancer. It's breast cancer in women and prostate cancer in men especially, that showed what appears to be a very strong link between the amount of light just in the environment around cities and towns and the development of those cancers per capita. They're higher in the city and lesser in the country, and the lines just match the ambient light level lines. There's a tremendous number of ecological issues with stray light at night. We walk in the park and we might think that we're seeing a lot of trees and different things, but when you really look at it, we're looking at thousands of different species around us. And again, none of those evolved to be in a place where it's light at night. And now we're subjecting them to light all night long. It gets down to maybe twilight level or something above that, and then it just stays there all night long. So what we're doing is messing up a number of things with these organisms. They use that day-night cycle to run their internal clocks, just like we do as human beings, but they also use the day-night cycle to judge the length of the season. And they will migrate or mate or do other physiological things based on that. The issue is that there's just not a lot of public awareness of this. And on a large scale, we're not going to see a lot of change till there is more public awareness. So that's kind of the beginning of things. I oftentimes compare this nighttime conservation to what clean air or clean water conservation were, say, around 1960 or so. Somebody must know what they're doing or they wouldn't let it happen. But when in reality, it is as bad as it looks. We spend a lot of time just trying to get people to realize, no, that's not the way it's supposed to be, and we can do better. So that's a lot of our focus, is to get the issue on the table. Seeing the stars in the sky is our window to that there's a universe out there. There's something besides my little life here on Earth, that there's whole other stars, there's whole other galaxies out there. And we used to be able to see that by looking up, and now whole generations are growing up without really knowing that there's anything over their head but glow. So,